welcome to my English Practice and Podcast. Today, we are strapping in for an extensive deep dive into the language of the road.
That's right.
Specifically, the high-stakes, highly procedural dialogue that happens between commercial drivers and, well, the Department of Transportation, or DOT, officers and inspectors.
And this is, it's perhaps one of the most crucial areas of professional communication in the entire logistics industry. It's just so important.
I can imagine.
For any learner, whether you're prepping for your CDL, maybe you're managing a fleet, or you're just, curious about the protocols that keep our highways safe, this is essential listening.
Right.
Our mission today, it goes far beyond just simple vocabulary. It's really about decoding the entire compliance framework.
Okay.
It's understanding the stakes, the regulations, and mastering the precise phrasing that can mean the difference between, say, a 5-minute roadside check and a multi-$1,000 violation.
Or worse.
Or much worse, a career-halting penalty.
Exactly. Our objective here is to pull out those essential nuggets from, well, a rich stack of realistic inspection scenarios we've been looking at.
And they are very realistic.
We've analyzed these authentic dialogues that cover a huge range of interactions. Everything from a polite, quick roadside check all the way up to some pretty serious confrontations.
The kind that results in that ultimate penalty, an out-of-service order.
That's the one. So we're essentially extracting the professional how-to guide for these high-pressure checkpoints. We want to make sure you understand not just what to say, but why you have to say it in that specific way.
And the sources we're using, they showcase all these varied tones. You've got polite, you've got conversational, sometimes stressed, which really reflects the true complexity of these interactions.
The real world, basically.
The real world, at way stations and roadside stops. We're treating this deep dive as sort of an intensive course in efficiency and professionalism under some pretty intense scrutiny. Every single phrase a driver uses is either affirming compliance or, raising a red flag.
And we're going to explore the mechanics behind all of that. Okay, so let's unpack this. I think we should start at the very beginning, the entry point, the random roadside check.
The baseline.
Exactly. This establishes the standard, the baseline of expectation, and that polite yet firm professionalism that's required. In one of our sources, the exchange starts incredibly politely. It's just, "Afternoon, driver, random DOT check, how's your day going?"
The initial politeness is so key. It's really a mechanism to gauge the driver's whole demeanor.
To see how they react.
Exactly. If a driver immediately gets defensive or agitated, it raises the inspector's internal flag. It suggests, maybe I need to take a closer look here.
Right.
But that polite greeting, it pivots to business very, very quickly. The very next line is, "I understand. Let's take a quick look at your paperwork. License and logs, please."
And that phrase, "license and logs, please," that's the universal trigger, isn't it?
That's the absolute universal trigger for that initial review. And the speed of the driver's response, well, that really dictates the tone for the rest of the whole interaction.
And we see a model professional response in the sources, which is just instant cooperation.
Instant.
Sure thing, here you go. Logs are on my ELD tablet. It's short, it confirms compliance, and it specifies the format.
And that brevity, that efficiency is exactly what the inspector is looking for. It also often leads straight into the next check, which is the start of the hours of service review.
With the question, "How long have you been driving today?"
Precisely.
Yeah.
That initial really brief interaction, the greeting, documents handed over, one quick question about HOS, that's often enough. If it goes smoothly, the inspector is satisfied, the driver is professional and prepared.
And then you get the wrap up.
You get the wrap up, everything looks clean, keep it that way, drive safe,
Yeah.
and that's it. A quick positive end to the whole thing.
But if the driver fumbles with the paperwork or hesitates,
then that short stop immediately escalates. It can become a level 2 or even a full level 1 inspection very quickly.
Okay, so I want to spend some significant time now diving into that critical documentation layer. This seems to be where preparation can save a massive amount of time.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are the documents a commercial driver absolutely must have ready right there at a moment's notice beyond just their CDL?
Right. So these documents are standardized and they are completely non-negotiable. Missing any of them or having an expired version, that's a direct violation.
An automatic violation.
An automatic violation. And it can even lead straight to an out-of-service order. You need 5 key pieces. First, your CDL, your license, obviously.
Of course.
Second, the medical card. This confirms you're physically fit to operate a commercial vehicle. And honestly, this is probably the most common violation we see for just minor compliance issues.
People forget to renew it.
All the time. Third, the the vehicle registration for the truck, and often for the trailer too. Fourth, the logs, which today means having access to the electronic logging device, the ELD data.
And the fifth document, which is really crucial for linking the truck to its purpose. That's the freight documentation itself.
Correct. The bill of lading, or BL. This document is the paper proof. It connects the vehicle, the driver, and the specific cargo being hauled.
So in one of the dialogues, the driver is asked what they're hauling.
Right. And the response is, it's a dry van load paper products going to Georgia. The BL lets the inspector instantly confirm a few things.
Like what?
Weight regulations for one, route authorization, and most importantly, any cargo safety classifications. If that BL had listed hazardous materials, for instance,
The whole inspection would intensify.
immediately they'd be checking for hazmat endorsements, specialized placards. The BL connects the truck's operating status to its actual mission on the road.
Let's talk about the ELD factor for a minute, because this is really the modern compliance challenge. It's not just handing over a paper logbook anymore. It's a technical interface.
It is, and the expectation is for immediate, reliable, digital access to the mandated 7 previous days of records, plus the current day.
So what does the inspector actually ask for?
The request is often very specific. Can you transfer your logs to my system via Bluetooth? Or sometimes, please email the transfer file to this DOT server address. It's not just about showing the logs on your tablet screen.
You have to actually transfer the data.
You have to successfully transfer the data to the inspector system. And failure to do that, even if the logs look fine on your screen, that could be a serious violation.
Why is that?
Because the logs are legally considered proprietary federal records. The transfer is the official submission.
That brings up a really interesting point that, you as a learner need to understand. If the ELD is slow or glitchy, like one driver in our sources said.
My ELD's loading. It's been a bit slow today.
Yeah, that one. How is that delay interpreted? Is it seen as just a tech glitch, or is it non-compliance?
It's almost always seen as the driver's responsibility, and therefore it's non-compliance.
Yeah.
The ELD is, in essence, the modern logbook, and the driver is responsible for maintaining functional equipment.
So if the device fails,
The driver is legally required to immediately switch to paper logs and document that malfunction. The dialogue shows the inspector's vigilance right away. He says, "All right, I'll wait. Just don't unplug it."
and that's a warning.
It's a huge warning against tampering. Unplugging it looks like you're trying to clear an error or destroy a record, which is a massive felony violation.
And the inspector's final warning in that scenario.
Better to fix it before you get caught at the next scale. It just reinforces that continuous maintenance is mandatory. It's not optional.
So mastering the conversational flow isn't about, being overly friendly. It's about efficiency and signaling instant compliance. What are those key phrases that really streamline the whole thing?
They're short, they're declarative, and they're respectful. Sure thing, here you go, will do, no problem. And of course, the respectful sign-off. Appreciate your time, officer.
And using sir or ma'am is important.
It's non-negotiable professional courtesy. It just manages the interaction effectively. By showing you understand and you're fulfilling the request instantly, you project reliability. In a stressful situation, organized paperwork and professional language are a driver's best tools.
It seems like an inspector is much less likely to escalate things if that first minute is just handled perfectly.
That's absolutely true.
That clarity is really helpful. Now, let's quickly differentiate this basic roadside stop from a check that might happen at a fixed way station, which the sources suggest can trigger a different level of inspection.
Right, a level 2 inspection. It's known officially as the walk-around driver vehicle examination, and it's typically what happens at a way station.
And the officer will say something specific?
Yes, the dialogue confirms it. Thank you. Step out for a quick level 2 inspection, please. The level 2 is quicker than a level 1 because it omits the really invasive parts.
Like going under the truck.
Exactly. They don't get into the engine compartment or go underneath to inspect brake components in detail.
So what are the primary goals of that level 2 check at the way station?
It's focused on 3 main things. First, documentation and driver condition, just like before. Second, confirming the vehicle's gross vehicle weight, the GVW they just measured on the scale, matches the registration and the BL.
And third,
a visual check, a walk-around, making sure the basic mechanicals, tires, lights, securement all look sound. It's designed to be quick, maybe 15 to 20 minutes tops, if everything checks out.
but if they find a small issue during that walk around,
They might upgrade the inspection to a full level 1.
So the bill of lading isn't just about what's in the truck, it's about confirming compliance with the weight they just measured.
Precisely. They are cross-referencing reality with documentation. If the driver says they have paper products, but the weight is several thousand pounds heavier than expected for paper.
That flags suspicion.
Big time.
Yeah.
And it justifies turning that level 2 into a level 1. They'll start looking for hidden cargo or an overweight violation. That's why the driver's language has to be so precise and match the documents perfectly.
Okay, so we're stepping up the intensity now significantly. We've talked about the quick checks. The level 1 inspection, that's the full regulatory deep dive, the most thorough inspection there is.
This is where the dialogue shifts completely. It goes from being conversational to being highly procedural.
When the inspector says, "All right, driver, we're doing a full level 1 today. Step out of the truck, please. You know this is serious."
You know you're in for at least an hour of intense scrutiny. The instructions are sequential and they are mandatory. Step out of the truck, and then the critical follow-up is usually pop the hood.
Right. They need access to the engine.
Unhindered access.
Okay.
To the engine compartment, airlines, mechanical linkages, all key parts of this check.
And the level 1 covers everything from the engine all the way back, even under the truck. This requires the driver to be an active participant.
Very active. And it relies on a specific, highly specialized back and forth dialogue.
Let's break down some of that communication. What about the critical safety checks? Let's start with the lights protocol.
Okay. This seems simple, but it requires confirmation. The inspector will direct. Turn on your headlights and four-way flashers.
And the driver can't just assume.
They must confirm. Lights are on. The inspector's looking for burnt-out bulbs, cracked lenses, improper wiring, anything that reduces visibility.
Okay, now let's move to probably the most crucial dialogue, the brake test. This is not casual at all.
Not at all. It's a detailed, coordinated safety protocol. It's designed to eliminate any human error when they're verifying the most vital system on the truck.
It sounds like a ritual.
It is a ritualized dialogue. And the driver has to know their lines perfectly. It starts with the air system check. The inspector directs, step on the brake pedal.
And the driver responds immediately.
Brakes applied. At the same time, the inspector is watching the air gauges and listening for leaks. Then the direction changes. Okay, now release it. And the driver confirms. Released.
So it's a continuous feedback loop.
Exactly. It makes sure the inspector and driver are perfectly synchronized, and it proves the system is responsive and holding pressure.
I have to ask, for the curious learner out there, what specifically is the inspector looking for when they're underneath the truck during this test? And how does the driver's dialogue help with that?
That's a great question, and it gets to the depth of a level 1. A level 1 is the only inspection that mandates checking the brake pushrod stroke.
The pushrod stroke.
It's the mechanical arm that extends when the brakes are applied. If that stroke is too long, the brake is considered out of adjustment. So the driver has to apply the brakes and hold them while the inspector is physically under the truck measuring the movement with a ruler.
Wow. So when the driver says brakes applied,
that's the inspector's cue to measure the distance. If that pushrod travel exceeds the regulatory limit for that brake chamber type, and we're talking a 1/4 inch via the red line, the truck is immediately placed out of service.
So the dialogue is a safety safeguard.
It's a safeguard and a regulatory measurement cue. It ensures the driver doesn't accidentally release the brakes while the inspector is in a vulnerable position or in the middle of a measurement.
That is fascinating. Okay, beyond brakes and lights, what about tires and leaks?
The checks for tires, suspension, and any leaks are often more observational, but the language is still very professional. If everything is fine, the inspector provides that positive confirmation. Tires look fine, good tread depth, or I don't see any air or fluid leaks down here.
That seems reassuring for the driver.
It is. That transparency helps. But conversely, if they spot something, say a small oil drip, they'll state it immediately. I see a slight dampness around the differential. Make sure you monitor that.
And the driver needs to acknowledge that.
They must. The required response acknowledges their duty to maintain it. Understood. I'll have maintenance check that at the next stop.
Moving beyond the truck's mechanics, the level 1 also includes required safety equipment inside the cab.
Right. The inspector needs proof that the mandated safety items are present in the right location and working. They'll specifically ask about the fire extinguisher and the warning triangles.
And what's the expected response?
It has to be specific. The question is, fire extinguisher and triangles. The driver has to answer with details. Right behind the seat, fully charged extinguisher and 3 warning triangles.
The quantity and condition are key.
Absolutely. Regulations require at least 3 reflective triangles and an accessible, properly rated and fully charged extinguisher. Saying 3 triangles and fully charged instantly builds the inspector's confidence.
Okay, now let's talk about a scenario that allows for a cooperative resolution, handling minor defects in real time. This is where a driver's preparedness can directly save them from a citation.
This is that gray area between a violation and full compliance. If the inspector finds a small, easily fixable problem, like a burnt-out turn signal.
Hey, driver, your right turn signal isn't working.
Exactly.
Huh.
The professional driver avoids getting defensive and pivots straight to fixing it. I'm sorry, officer, I must have missed that on my pre-trip. I have a spare bulb right here. Can I replace it right away?
And that pivot, that's the crucial moment, isn't it?
It is. If the driver can execute the fix immediately, right there, the regulatory outcome changes.
Also,
The DOT's main goal is safety compliance, not writing tickets. If the issue is minor and it's fixed on the spot, meaning the truck is safe before it leaves, the inspector will often use the key phrase, "I'll note it as fixed on site."
corrected on site.
Right. And that administrative note means the violation was addressed before a formal citation was issued. The driver avoids a fine and a negative mark on their safety record.
That's a huge incentive for drivers to carry spares and tools.
A massive one. But the officer doesn't just let them off without a reminder of their primary duty.
Of course not.
The driver gets a stern lesson. No problem. That saves us both paperwork, but make sure to tighten up your pre-trip checks next time. That's your responsibility.
And the driver has to acknowledge that.
Respectfully. Will do. Lesson learned, and I appreciate the opportunity to fix it. This whole exchange, it really highlights the collaborative nature of enforcement when safety is immediately restored.
We're going to transition now from the mechanics of the truck to what is really the regulatory backbone of driver safety, hours of service or HOS compliance.
This is all about preventing driver fatigue, which is, arguably the single biggest risk factor in commercial driving fatalities.
A deep dive into time management.
A deep regulatory dive, yes. The logs are the verifiable proof that the driver is not operating fatigued or over their legal limit. And the core line of questioning is simple, but it's mandatory. How many hours have you been on duty today?
And the driver has to be precise.
Absolutely precise, referencing their ELD clock. 6 hours total driving, 8 hours total on duty, started my shift at 5:30 this morning.
I want to break down that distinction there, driving versus on duty. For the curious learner, why is that distinction so essential in this dialogue?
It's crucial because HOS rules govern both. You have a maximum of 11 hours of driving time within a 14-hour window, but you could be on duty for up to 14 hours total.
And on duty includes everything.
Everything. Pre-trip inspections, fueling, reading at a dock, paperwork, and driving. The 14-hour window starts the moment you clock in, and once that clock starts, you cannot legally drive again after 14 hours have passed, even if you've only driven for 6 of them.
So the dialogue has to confirm the driver knows both of those limits.
The driving limit and the duty window limit. Exactly.
Okay, let's look at the 3 vital time markers the inspector checks for to confirm adherence to the federal HOS rules.
The first one is that mandated mid-shift rest, the 30-minute break. This is completely non-negotiable.
So the inspector has to confirm it was taken and taken correctly.
And the dialogue requires specifics. When was your last 30-minute break and where?
And the driver needs to recall the time and location.
Precisely. Around 10 a.m. at a rest area in Alabama, or took it about 3 hours ago in Nashville. The rule says a driver has to take a 30-minute off-duty break if they've driven for 8 consecutive hours. The specificity confirms they did it right.
So a quick fuel stop doesn't count.
No, that's a violation. The dialogue confirms. Was it truly off-duty and for at least 30 continuous minutes?
Okay, let's move to the second marker, which addresses cyclical fatigue. The reset.
The 34-hour reset. This is the standard required period of off-duty time that legally restarts a driver's 7-day or 8-day clock limits.
The 60 or 70-hour rules.
Right. You're limited to 60 hours on duty in 7 days, or 70 hours in 8 days. Once you hit that limit, you have to take 34 consecutive hours off to reset your clock to 0. So the inspector will ask, and your last 34-hour reset.
And the expected answer is a clear confirmation.
Did a full 34-hour reset over the weekend. Or last Saturday, full 34-hour reset.
And this is critical proof.
It is. The rule is directly linked to the science of preventing chronic fatigue. Studies show drivers needed that substantial time away from the road to really eliminate fatigue debt. 10 hours just wasn't enough to restart the cycle.
And if they can't confirm it?
They're typically limited to working only until they hit that 60 or 70-hour max, which often means an immediate out-of-service order until they complete the rest period.
And the third marker is that core safety limit, the 11-hour drive limit.
Right. Here, the dialogue focuses on awareness and proactive self-management. The inspector will remind them, make sure you don't exceed your 11-hour drive limit, and keep an eye on that 14-hour window.
And the driver's response shows they're on top of it.
The professional response, yes. Yes, sir. I always keep an eye on my ELD clock. I'm scheduled to stop with 3 hours remaining today. That phrase demonstrates the right attitude, not just complying, but actively monitoring their time against the safety limits.
Let's revisit the technology for a second. What happens if a driver genuinely has an ELD failure? Can they argue their way out of a log violation?
Their ability to argue is extremely limited. The system is designed to be tamper-proof. If the ELD genuinely malfunctions, the driver must immediately enter malfunction mode in the device, note the time, and switch to paper logs.
For how long?
They can use paper logs for up to 8 days while waiting for a repair or replacement. So the driver who was struggling with the slow-loading ELD, he was flirting with a violation because he didn't document the malfunction and switch methods.
So the language required here isn't defensive, it's procedural.
Exactly. Instead of saying, my ELD is broken, the professional driver should state, my ELD is in malfunction mode, officer. I have the required paper logs filled out, and I've contacted maintenance for a replacement.
And that shifts the entire interaction.
It does. It goes from being a log violation, which carries huge fines, to being a simple equipment maintenance issue, as long as they're using the paper logs correctly. The lack of that procedural defense is what triggers the inspector's warning.
Okay, moving on to a very specialized, very high-risk area, load security, particularly for flatbed trucks.
This is so crucial. If cargo shifts, or worse, falls off a flatbed, it presents an immediate catastrophic danger to the public.
So load securement is the highest priority for these drivers.
Arguably the highest mechanical priority. When you're hauling dense materials like steel beams, lumber, heavy machinery, the stakes are immense. The initial dialogue is about inventory. The driver has to accurately state what securement they're using.
And it has to match the rules.
It has to match the minimum requirements based on the cargo's weight and length.
What are the regulations looking for beyond just, counting the number of straps?
They're looking for the correct working load limit, or WLL. Every strap, every chain, every binder has a WOL rating. The total WLL of all your securement devices must equal at least 50% of the weight of the cargo.
So there's math involved.
A lot of math. If you're hauling 40,000 pounds of steel, your total WLL for all your straps and chains must be at least 20,000 pounds. So when the driver says 8 straps, 2 chains in the front, 1 in the rear, the inspector is mentally calculating if that meets the WLL for the cargo listed on the BL.
So the dialogue is technical confirmation of a physics equation.
That's a great way to put it.
But the inspection doesn't stop there. It focuses heavily on an essential safety rule, the mid-trip recheck.
And this recheck is the mark of a truly professional driver. Loads settle. It's just a fact. Road vibration, acceleration, braking. During the first 50 miles, straps and chains will loosen, even just slightly.
And if you don't stop to retighten them,
that small looseness compounds. It can lead to load shift, friction damage to the straps, and eventually a catastrophic failure down the road.
Which is why the inspector's question is aimed right at this protocol. You check them after you leave the yard.
And the mandatory compliant response has to reference that specific timing. Yes, sir. Rechecked after 50 miles, like the rule says. That phrase, after 50 miles, is regulatory code. It shows procedural due diligence.
And if they can't say that?
It suggests they might be operating with insufficient securement, which warrants a much deeper look and probably a citation.
The inspector's reaction in the source material to the compliant answer is very telling. Perfect. I wish everyone did it that way.
That phrase tells you everything you need to know. It shows that while the rule exists, compliance with it really separates the mediocre driver from the true professional. It's an easy but critical step.
It signals to the inspector that this driver understands the risk.
Right. The dialogue becomes one of mutual professional respect, not just enforcement.
I want to ask a challenging question here. What if the inspector notices, say, a tie-down angle that looks wrong, or a strap that's rubbing against a sharp edge? How should the driver respond to that?
The driver must avoid argument at all costs and switch immediately into solution mode. If the inspector says, "Driver, that rear strap looks worn and is running across a sharp corner,"
the right response isn't to argue.
The right response is, "Thank you for spotting that, officer. I have edge protectors in the cab and I have spare straps. I will place an edge protector on that beam right now and swap the strap out.
So again, correcting it on site saves the citation.
Exactly. And the language used confirms their knowledge of preventative measures, like edge protectors, and a willingness to use them immediately.
And finally, the driver kind of wraps it up by reinforcing their commitment to safety.
Yes, they should articulate that safety mindset that DOT demands. Lines like, safety first, or absolutely better safe than sorry. These aren't just filler phrases.
They mean something.
They demonstrate that the driver understands the high-stakes responsibility they carry. When a driver vocalizes that commitment, it often ends the inspection on a positive note.
Okay, we've covered the compliance scenarios, the cooperative fixes. Now we have to look at what happens when safety rules are fundamentally broken. We're at the edge of enforcement.
Consequences here are immense.
We need to clearly differentiate between, say, a paperwork oversight that gets a warning and a serious mechanical failure that results in a hard stop.
The difference is night and day. Let's start with the minor violation, which is often a paperwork thing like the expired medical card we found in one of the sources.
This is a severe issue, though.
It's a severe compliance issue because an expired medical card immediately invalidates your CDL for commercial operation.
Yep.
You are legally driving without a license.
And the dialogue captures the driver's shock. Oh man, really? I thought it was good till the end of the month?
Right, a simple misreading of the date. It expires on the 19th, not the 30th. And the officer has to deliver the cold, hard fact. It says it expired on the 19th. That's a violation. You'll need to renew it immediately.
And at that point, the driver is facing a serious citation.
Hundreds or thousands of dollars, and potentially a temporary OOS status. The immediate promise to fix it is the driver's only path to maybe getting some leniency.
The right response would be,
Understood. That is my mistake. I will schedule an appointment for renewal within the hour and send the confirmation to my company.
and that explicit verifiable commitment allows the inspector to use their discretion.
Precisely. The inspector might say, I'll give you a warning this time, not a citation, based on your promise of immediate action. It shows the inspector's goal is compliance, not just punishment for correctable errors.
And the driver needs to show they understand they got a break.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, officer. That is a huge help. They need to know their quick action earned them that leniency.
Okay, now let's transition to the serious red line. The mechanical failure that forces a truck off the road. The out of service order, or OS.
This is a regulatory command, not a suggestion. It stops the driver's career dead in its tracks until it's fixed.
This is when the truck is an imminent safety hazard.
Yes, and the dialogue focuses on a specific, quantifiable trigger that is beyond the driver's ability to fix on the roadside. It's a failure in the critical braking system.
What's the exact mechanical failure in the sources that triggers this OOS order? And why is that metric so non-negotiable?
The explicit trigger is a measurable defect in the air brake integrity. Driver, I'm afraid your brake air pressure drops below the legal limit. Specifically, it drops over 5 psi in 1 minute.
5 CIs in 1 minute.
That is a non-negotiable mandatory OOS standard. A leak of more than 5 pounds per square inch in a minute signifies a severe failure in the air system. The system just can't safely maintain the pressure needed to operate the brakes.
And that quantifiable failure moves the situation from a warning to an absolute stop.
Instantly. The consequence is immediate and absolute. That's out of service.
What happens right after that phrase is uttered?
The vehicle is officially taken out of service. The inspector will physically place a red OS tag on the vehicle's license plate or door. The plate is logged into a federal database. The language is unyielding.
And the driver's professional response has to be one of acknowledgement.
Yes, understood. I will immediately call my company and arrange for roadside repair out here.
Yeah.
The truck cannot move under its own power. Any attempt to move a tagged OSO vehicle is a criminal offense.
With huge fines.
Massive fines for both the driver and the company, and it typically means the permanent loss of the driver's CDL.
So the truck is fixed, but it can't just continue on its way. What's the final crucial regulatory hurdle mentioned in the source dialogue?
This is the key safeguard. A certified mechanic does the repair, but the driver needs external verification before the OOS status is lifted.
So the inspector has to come back.
Yes. The inspector clarifies the final step. Once repaired, you'll need a reinspection before moving. Call the scale house when the repairs are finished. This means either the original inspector or another certified officer must physically return, verify the brake pressure holds, and only then can they formally lift the OOS order and remove the tag.
It really emphasizes that safety is the absolute priority over any schedule.
Absolutely. The truck will not roll until it is certified safe by an authority. The entire enforcement dialogue reinforces that when safety is compromised by a quantifiable failure, the enforcement is swift, precise, and completely unyielding.
Wow, that was an extremely thorough deep dive into the language of compliance, safety, and enforcement in commercial driving.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We navigated the mandatory paperwork, we detailed the procedural dialogue of the Level 1 walk-around, we analyzed those time-sensitive HOS rules, and finally, we explored the huge differences between warnings and that non-negotiable out-of-service order.
I think the central takeaway for you, the learner, is that in this profession, every single phrase a driver uses is either buying time, confirming a safety standard, or actively managing a risk.
That's a great way to put it.
These conversations are so high stakes because they're constantly balancing two competing needs. The need for operational efficiency, keep your paperwork organized, that saves time, with the absolute necessity of rigorous regulatory adherence.
Safety first.
Safety first. Knowing the protocol, mastering the language, is the difference between seamless operation and severe regulatory action.
It's the difference between a 5-minute polite check and a multi-hour, multi-thousand-dollar roadside headache. The language is the mechanism that makes it all work.
Absolutely. So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought to consider based on all the detailed source material we examined. Given the highly specific zero-tolerance rules on mechanics, like that 5 psi brake drop, and the complex fluctuating rules on logs like the HOS limits and resets, which element do you think is the most challenging for maintaining continuous zero-violation safety compliance over a long, stressful career?
Is it the driver's ability to maintain that complex, constantly updating documentation and logs?
Or is it their physical vigilance in consistently checking the mechanical status and the specialized securement of their vehicle?
Something to mull over as you process the complexities of highway logistics. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into highway safety and compliance. Drive safe and keep learning.
Until next time.